Today we're going to run through a workflow and a macro that I used while I was making this website. This macro is a little more fiddly than usual because it involves a lot of precise cursor movements, switching between apps, and building in ways to make sure that Keyboard Maestro doesn't get ahead of the system UI. So for that reason, we're going to do things a little bit more in depth than usual. So we'll take a look at the workflow, and then the macro that replaces the workflow, and then we're going to break down step by step, action by action, everything that goes into making this work. This is going to be much more in-depth than usual because you can't just look at the macro in action and understand what's going on. It only takes like 3 or 4 seconds. So with that in mind, let's take a look at why this even exists. I'm a big fan of the interviews on the Suite setup, where they ask people what their workstation looks like and what kind of apps they use and what services they use. I love when bloggers include that kind of thing. I think it might be useful for people to discover useful software. It's actually how I discovered Affinity Designer, and I think that app has really helped me broaden my horizons, and it's thanks to a page like this. So I thought, hey, why not? As long as I'm procrastinating from doing the actual difficult work of writing, why don't I make an app page of my own? The question then is, how do I get all these icons? Because there's a couple dozen. I could just do Google image searches for each one of them, find the correct one or just one that I like, download it, rename it, but that seems like a whole bunch of steps. You can see all the things that you have to do to make that happen. And so I wanted to do a more, I want to press one button and have the whole thing taken care of. I chose to just pull the icons that are already on your computer that are bundled with each app. Let's take a look at how this works. Just a note of what you're looking at here, I use Pathfinder instead of Finder as my default file explorer. It's just like Finder, but has more customizations and tweaks that you can do, and I always love that kind of stuff. If you decided to replicate this macro for yourself for whatever reason, you wouldn't really change anything. You would just use Finder instead of Pathfinder. We're here in my Applications folder, and you can see from the preview pane that every app has its own icon. We're going to bring up this tool called Inspector. The Inspector will give you all the information that you might want about a file, its permissions, its file path, its size, what opens it, everything. The Inspector hovers on top of everything and will change to show the information of whatever file you have highlighted, which is important to this macro. We'll click on the icon and hit Command-C to copy it to our system clipboard. We need to save the image that's on our clipboard to a file, and we'll do that with preview.app, which is your Mac's default image and PDF viewer. While in preview, go to File, New from Clipboard, or just hit Command-N, and you'll get this new window. Now just hit Command-S or File Save to bring up the save dialog. Type in the name that you want, and then save it. You might notice that the format is ICNS. I'll explain what that means and how to deal with it when we get to the second part of this tutorial, so for now just bike rack your curiosity. You can close the window and move your cursor back to the next app that you want to copy the icon of, and you're done. So this works all well and good. It didn't look like it took too much time, but if you've got dozens of apps that you want to do this for, then it's going to get very tedious to do this over and over. Devotees will understand that if you have a chance to give yourself a problem to solve, rather than a boring job that you need to slog through, then you should go the problem-solving route. With that in mind, let's take a look at the finished macro in action. First, let's very briefly take a look at the macro itself. It's got 5 parts to it. The very first part uses this calculation that I pulled from the Keyboard Maestro forum. It saves the mouse location so that at the very end, your cursor will go back to where it started. The first part of the macro proper is getting the file name. Since the macro is going to be triggered by a hotkey, then this is set to click the mouse, hit return, and copy the name of the app that we're going to use. It does some scrubbing, like it gets rid of spaces, and replaces them with dashes. It turns everything lowercase. This is just how I like to have my image files named, because this is ultimately for my website. The next part is to get the icon. It just moves over to the inspector, clicks a couple of times, and saves it. There's another group to activate preview and save the new icon. and then finally at the end it returns to the start position. Again, I use Pathfinder. If you were doing this, you would probably change it to Finder. And with all that in mind, we can finally see this macro in action.
Let's take a look at the macro run at full speed. That went pretty fast, and that's the point, but a little fast to see. Let's do it in slow motion. Clicks and copies the name, clicks and copies the icon, opens preview, creates a new icon from clipboard, saves that, pastes in the name, saves it, closes, moves back to Pathfinder, and resets your mouse. Now that's still too fast in my opinion, so we're gonna crush a flea with a sledgehammer and break this whole macro down play by play. First it clicks the mouse to select what's under the cursor. Then it simulates a return key to highlight the file's title. And you can't see this, but it's copying that text to a secondary clipboard that I defined in Keyboard Maestro settings. This is because we need the system clipboard for the icon a little bit later. And then finally it simulates another return key to unhighlight the file title so we can get on to the next thing. Next, the cursor moves over to the icon and clicks twice. I just found out that you have to click twice or else it won't work. It moves to very specific coordinates. We're using the absolute position. That means that if you imagine your screen as a map of pixels, then it's moving to the exact coordinates of 11, 28 over, and 73 down. I got that using the handy Get button. You can see it there. There's Go and Get. Get will just give you a countdown timer, and then wherever your mouse is, when it reaches 0, then it will send those coordinates over to the action. It clicks twice, then it simulates a copy, and that moves the icon onto your system clipboard. Now we've got both pieces of input that we need. It's time to save this icon to our disk. The macro activates preview, and then types Command N, which is the menu item new from clipboard. The macro is set to pause until there's a window with the title Untitled available. Again, this is just so that Keyboard Maestro won't get ahead of the system UI. Now that the Untitled window is fully formed and ready to be interacted with, then the macro can move on, and it hits Command S for save. We also have another wait for action. This one is set to wait until there's an active save button before moving on to the next step. It pastes from the clipboard that we saved the name of the app to, and then hits return to save. It waits until there is no cancel button anywhere on the screen so that it can safely close the window so that we don't have clutter. And you'll notice that the cursor has returned right back to where it started. And that's because the macro sends you back to your file explorer of choice, and using the mouse location that we set at the very beginning, it puts your mouse cursor right back where you started so that you don't have to move it around.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, the images that you're saving are in the .icns format. ICNS is an image format, or rather an image package format that macOS wants. So when you open up an application, the operating system wants a bunch of different sizes for the icon. It could have them in Spotlight. It has a particular size right here, and right here there's two already. The taskbar has different size ones, the dock has different size icons. So the operating system has a bunch of different needs, and so an ICNS is a bunch of usually PNGs that are at different sizes and different resolutions. We don't need one that's 1024 by 1024, and also WordPress can't make heads or tails of an ICNS, so we have to convert this into a format that is okay for the web server. In this case, let's do PNGs. To convert all of these at once and also scale them down a bit, you'll notice that some of these icons are like over a megabyte, and that's not going to be very good. We need to optimize. I'm not going to give a full lesson on Automator, which is the app that we're going to use to convert all these. There will be more videos to follow, but for now, just do exactly as I do, and maybe you won't understand, but that's totally fine. That's just part of the journey. We're going to open up Automator, which is a native macOS app. It's meant for creating workflows, application services, just ways of automating normal functions. I use this extensively for its batch renaming and batch converting functions. So we're going to choose a workflow. we need three things up here in the action search. We can do get specified finder items. We're going to convert types of images and choose a PNG. And then to top it all off, we're also going to scale the images down to something more manageable, let's say 256. Get specified finder items means that you can just drag the items that you want into this. We'll select all of our icons. It doesn't matter if there's 2 or 1 or 200. Automator will handle all of them. They're in there. We got what we want to set them to. We've got our sizes. Let's just hit run. You can see it working over here as they turn into PNGs. The workflow is completed. First thing you'll notice is that the sizes have decreased considerably. Application loader, I believe, was like over a megabyte, and now it is only 58.6K. Also, you'll notice that they are smaller at 256 by 256. And these are ready to get uploaded to my website's server. And that's pretty much it. The only thing that we got to do now is just write a bunch of copy that no one's going to read and create the markup for these icon heading paragraphs right here. That's a totally other video. Maybe I'll make that in the future if there's interest. If you liked this or found it useful, please be sure to like, share, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you need some clarification on any of the parts of this, and I'd be happy to help you out. If you have a better way of doing it, and if you're a scripting fanatic, then I'm pretty sure you have something to say about the CF Bundle icon file property. That would probably make everything go way faster. Then feel free to say that in the comments as well. If you have any requests for a workflow or a macro solution to your problems, then you know what to do. Just leave it in the comments. So until next time, keep tinkering, stay empowered.